Today I'm going to show you how to implement Sequelize Associations. I'm going to teach you everything about Sequelize Associations with examples and finally apply what we learned to our existing application, which is the blogging system REST API. Alright, so let's get started. Hey guys, it's Korosum here and this is the part 12 of the series building a REST API with NodeJS and MySQL. So if you are new here, make sure to subscribe and stay with the channel to follow the rest of the series. So far we have done so much with NodeJS and MySQL in our series. We have implemented a CRUD, we added an image uploader, and we ran migrations and seeds and so much. So if you are interested, the links are in the description down below. Alright, so today we're going to learn how to create relationships between tables using Sequelize Associations. If you've been following this course from the beginning, we are building a REST API for a blog. So in our blog, we have users and posts, categories, addresses, and user roles. So a user can have many posts, and a post can have many comments, and also a post can belongs to many categories as well. And also a user can have one address. So that's how the entities are connected. So if you already know what relationships are, in SQL databases, we join tables to create relationships between tables. Using relationships, we can get useful data from more than one table with a single query. For example, let me open up one of our tables. So this is our post table. As you can see, we have ID, title, content, image URL, and user ID. Then the created and updated columns. So if we run a query on this table for a record, we get a response like this. See, we get the exact same data as in the table. Pay attention to this user ID column. So this is a reference to the user that this post was written by. So we only store the user ID in this post table. So displaying just this response with this user ID doesn't make any sense, right? Because displaying this user ID, just this user ID, won't be helpful for the user, for the reader. The reader wants to know the name of the user and the email and other information of the user, of the author. But the thing is, this information like username, email, and other information are stored in a different table, right? So it is in the users table. So we need to get user information for this query. So that's what relationships are for. When you are using pure SQL, we manually join tables by writing SQL for that. But when we are using an ORM, we don't have to manually write SQL because ORM provides dedicated functions for that. In our case, we are using Sequelize as the ORM, and it provides these functions to create relationships, and they are called associations. Alright, so to demonstrate all the relationships, all the association types and everything, I have a test controller here. So in this test method, I'm going to demonstrate all the type of relationships using the dataset we have in our blog. Alright, so after that, after the demonstration, I'm going to practically implement that in our other controllers like post controller, so that our blog can continue growing with our code base. Alright, so let's get started. Here, basically there are three types of relationships. The first one is 1 to 1, and that can be written as 1:1. So to demonstrate this, I'm going to take an example for this relationship. Like in this system, a user can have one address, or an address can be belongs to only one user. So that's the one-to-one relationship in our system. A user has one address, or an address belongs to only one user. And the second relationship type is one to many, and that can be written as 1:m. For this, the example I'm going to get from our system is a user has many posts, right? It makes sense. A user can have many posts written by him. Or we can get another example for this system, because since we have post and comments, a post can have many comments for that particular post. I'm not going to use that. I'm just going to use this example. A user has many posts. Alright. The third relationship type is many to many, and that can be written as m:n. And the example here is a post belongs to many categories. Makes sense, right? A post can be belongs to many categories. For example, if someone writes a blog post for a programming or something, that post can have stuff like NodeJS, Vue.js, Laravel, stuff like that. So a post can belong to many categories. So that's the practical aspect of it. So a post belongs to many categories. So these are the three examples that I'm going to demonstrate in this method, in this test method. And after this, implementing all of these relationship types, I'm just going to open up my post controller, and let's say we have few methods. Let's say we have show method, and I'm going to apply that relationship so that our blog is the code base is growing. Alright, so let's define our first relationship type, one-to-one. So here I'm using the example of user has one address, or an address belongs to only one user. Okay, first I'm going to get a user record. Alright, since this is an async method, I'm just going to use this await keyword, then the model name. Model name is user. And to get a single record with the primary key, there is a method in Sequelize called find by pk. I'm going to use that method here as well. Okay, let me check the table, and we have two users, with user ID of 19 and 20. I'm just going to hard code the user ID here. This should give the user record for the user ID of 19. Let's test this by returning this user object. I'm gonna open up the Postman, and let's call this endpoint, and yes, we get the user record for particular user ID, which is 19. We get the exact record as in the table. Okay, now alright, so now let's open up our user model, and we need to define our association here, our relation here. Alright, so this is how a freshly generated model looks like in Sequelize. There are few ways to generate a model. What I prefer is using the Sequelize CLI, typing Sequelize CLI, then model generate, and the model name and other attributes. You can refer to an older tutorial of this series to learn about how to generate models, how to generate migration, and other stuff regarding related to Sequelize. We have done so much with Sequelize in this series. We have implemented a CRUD system so far in this series, so you can follow along with the series to learn about more stuff with Sequelize. So I'm not going to repeat those at this moment right now. Instead, I'm just going to stick to the points, which is associations. So this is how a freshly generated model looks like. There is a section to define associations. Okay, so here what we are going to do is we need to define a one-to-one relation. So in Sequelize there is a dedicated method for that. It's called hasOne. Okay, since we use the example of user has one address, we can use that method to define the relation, define the association. User has one address. Okay, here I'm going to type the user model, then the method hasOne. Alright, then I need to define this other model name, which is address, just like this. So user has one address. Makes sense, right? Alright, after that I'm going to go back to the method, test method, and here we need to pass a second argument. It is an optional argument, and here in this object we can pass an object as a second argument, and here there is a field called include. We need to assign an array to this include key, and in this array we need to pass the model that we need the association from. Here we need to get the address association, so I need to pass address model like this. Alright, so let's test this on Postman. Now currently we only get the user, and when we hit send we get the address object as well. Beautiful. Alright, so now we got the address association for the user object, and we can do the other way around as well. As we mentioned earlier, a user has one address, and also an address belongs to one user. So just like we got address relation for the user object, we can get the user relation for the particular address object as well. Let's do that right now. I'm going to define a new constant called address, and I'm going to do the same models. Model name is address, and I'm going to use this find by pk function here as well. Let me check the addresses table. we have two addresses with ID of 1 and 2. I'm just going to get the first address with ID 1. Let's test this with Postman whether we get the address. Yes, we get the address with primary key of 1. And here in the address model we need to define this same association. Let me open up the address model, and here I'm gonna write address. Here address belongs to one user, so I'm gonna use this belongsTo method provided by Sequelize. Then the model user. So address belongs to user. So in the test controller here, as the second argument, I'm going to pass our object, and here I'm just going to copy this, and instead of address we can use user model. Alright, so let's test this using Postman. Yes, we are getting the address object and the particular user relation as well. Fantastic. Alright, so now you know how to implement the one-to-one relationship. So I'm going to just comment this out, and next I'm going to implement one-to-many relation. One-to-many. This is also very easy. So for the one-to-many relationship type, the example I'm using is a user has many posts. So now you know, I think now you know how this works. You know the pattern. I'm just going to copy this code snippet and I'm going to uncomment this, and here instead of address I'm going to use the user object and the user model, and find by pk the 19 user ID of 19, and here in our user model we need to define something like this. User, instead of hasOne, user has many. I'm just going to copy this. User has many posts. Let me check the model name here. Yes, model name is post. So user has many posts. So here in our second argument, which is the object, we need to include post model. Okay, user has many posts. Let's test this on Postman by returning this. I'm gonna open up the Postman, and yes, we get the user object for the particular ID and all the posts written by that particular user. We get that as an association, as a relation. It's amazing, right? It's really easy to use this Sequelize associations. Alright, that's all about one-to-many relationships. And you can get the user association for post object as well. We can do the we can use the same approach using our post model. I'm not going to do that. I assign you to do that. So you can define the belongsTo relation here and get the post model and with the user association. Okay, so next I'm going to show you how to implement many-to-many relationships. Alright, so to implement many-to-many relationships, I'm going to use the dataset of a post belong to many categories. A post belongs to many categories. That makes sense, right? In a blog, there can be many blog posts with multiple categories. For example, if there is a post regarding programming, and that post might contain the stuff like NodeJS, Vue.js, SQL, stuff like that. So there can be multiple categories for a blog post, for a single blog post. So that's the practical aspect of it. So I'm going to implement that with post and categories. So let me show you the table structure. As you know, we have categories. We have 6 categories, and we have post table. Well, since a post can have multiple categories, we cannot just use a column to put category ID for a post. So that won't work. And also in the categories table, since a category can have multiple posts, we cannot just use a column to put what are the posts for this particular categories. So if you have previous experience in SQL, you know what's the solution here, right? To solve this problem, we can create another table like this. I have named this with post categories because this is the table that connects post table and categories table. As you can see, we have 2 columns here, post ID and category ID. So we can do something like this. We can put post ID and the category ID. Again, a post ID, a category ID. So this way we can make the connection which post belongs to which categories. Here, as you can see, post ID 1 connects with category ID 1. Also, post ID 1 connects with category ID 2. And also, post ID 2 connects with category ID 2, and also post ID 2 connects with category ID 3. So this way we can make the connection between post and categories. I hope that's clear. So basically we need to have 3 tables to implement many-to-many relationships. Alright, so now we understand the table structure. Alright, so first I'm going to get a post with the categories that it belongs to. Alright, so just like we did earlier, let me create a constant and models dot post, and then the find by pk method. Okay, let me open up the post table and let's see. Since we have only 2 users, I mean 19 and 20 is the primary key of the existing users. There are some records with user ID 1, but we don't have that record for user table. Let me check. Yes, we have one post with the user ID of 19, so which is 98 is the ID. So let's fetch that record using the 98 primary key, and let's check whether we can get the record. Yes, we get the post record for that particular ID, which is 98. Okay, then to define the association, let me open up the post model, and here I need to define the association. Alright, so here I need to do something like this. Post, just like we did earlier. Here we need to use belongsToMany method provided by Sequelize. BelongsToMany. And here, as the first argument, I need to pass the other model that I needs the connection, which is category. And as the second argument, I need to pass an object with the key of true, and then I need to mention what is the connecting model. That the connecting model is post category. I need to mention that here in this object for the true key. Alright, so this might work. This might connect the categories table and post table with the post category table. We need to pass our second argument here, just like we did earlier with this include. Then I need to pass category model. Alright, so let's test this by calling this endpoint, and we get an empty array. Why is that? Well, as we checked, since we used the post ID of 98, and for the post ID of 98, we don't have any categories in this table, right? We don't have any connecting records for our post with the primary key of 98. So what I'm going to do is, since I don't have data, I'm going to change a record here. I'm just going to use the first record of post table, and I'm just going to change the user ID to 19 so that record can be used in our example. So here in our code, let's change the ID to 1, and let me check send. Yes, now we get the post object and the particular categories that post belongs to. Let me double check the table again. Here we are getting the first record, which is the primary key of 1, and in our post categories table, the connecting table, for the post ID of 1, we have category ID 1 and category ID 2. So let me check the response, and here for the post ID 1, we have the category ID 1 and category ID 2. Yes, so we are getting the correct categories for our post. Beautiful. Alright, so now what I'm going to do is, I'm going to do the other way around. I mean, we got the post with category associations. We can do the opposite. We can get the category with post associations. Alright, to do that, I'm going to open up the category model, and I'm going to just copy this and paste it right here. So here category belongs to many post through post category model, and here I'm just going to copy this. Instead of post should be category. And let me check the database and let me get the first category, which is NodeJS. So I'm going to hard code the IDs 1 and the relation is post. So I need to put post model here. Alright, so let's return this and check whether this is working. Yes, we get the category and the post array as well. Here we have one post. Let me check the table. For the category ID of 1, we have only one post ID, which is 1. Yeah, it's accurate. Let me check by passing the category ID of 2, and let's test it again. Yes, now we get 3 posts for our Vue.js category. Let me check the table. Yes, for the category of 2 we have 3 posts. Yes, it's correct. So this way you can implement many-to-many relationships using Sequelize. So today in this video we learn how to implement one-to-one, one-to-many and many-to-many relationships. I hope this demonstration is clear. I use the existing dataset in our blogging system. So like I promised earlier, let's apply what we learned to our existing blog. So I'm going to open up the post controller, and there is a method called show. Here in the show method we are getting a single blog post. So here I'm going to implement user relation and categories relation. So just like we did earlier, I'm going to pass the second argument, which is an object for our findByPK method, and as we have in our test method, I'm going to paste this right here, and let's test this on our postman. And this is the endpoint for fetching a post. Yes, we are getting 2 categories that this post belongs to, which is NodeJS and Vue.js. And let's implement the user association as well. So in our post table we only have one association. Here let me define another association. Post belongs to user. Yes, post belongs to one user. So here in our post controller, let's define models user. Let's test this again. Yes, we get the categories relation and also the user relation. Alright, so that's how we can implement associations in Sequelize. So we learn all the types of relations: one-to-one, one-to-many and many-to-many, and we practically implemented all of them, and finally we applied what we learned to our existing blog. And this way you can implement all the relevant relationships, all the relevant associations between tables. For example, you can define the comments relation here in the post model as well. A post can have many comments. You can define it here, and then you can include it here. Then you can get all the comments regarding this post. Alright, so it's really easy to use associations in Sequelize. Once you understand the pattern, it's actually effortless. So today you learned how to create relationships between tables using Sequelize associations. Alright, so I hope you enjoyed the video. Hit the subscribe button if you haven't already, and I'll see you guys very soon in the next video.